Good morning. May everyone please proceed to your seats. We will be beginning the event shortly. Thank you. Good morning and a warm welcome to the Muscat Stock Exchange Investor Roadshow. The Investor Roadshow is the biggest event of Oman's newly rebranded stock exchange. We're all gathered here in the hopes to attract global investment towards the listed companies at Muscat Stock Exchange and to inform various fund managers about the latest developments and growth prospects in the local Omani market. The Sultanate of Oman's unique geographical location, its stable economy, and its robust infrastructure makes it an ideal location for investment. The government also encourages and supports foreign investment, which is evident by the fact that they've introduced several new measures to stimulate Oman's business environment. I'd like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Hawra Abdullah Al-Balushi, and I'm delighted to be emceeing this event over the next couple of days. Professionally, I'm a full-time radio and TV presenter, and although presenting is my passion, what goes on in the stock market is my passion as well. I have the academic background for it, a bachelor degree in economics and business economics from Maastricht University in the Netherlands. So I'm truly honored to be a part of what combines both of these passions of mine, an event that will hopefully be fruitful and will play a major role in aiding and facilitating further foreign direct investment in Oman. But without any further ado, let's begin the event by hearing from our key speakers. Our first speaker today is the CEO of Muscat Stock Exchange and the chairman of Muscat Clearing and Muscat Stock Exchange and Clearing Depository SAOC, with over 19 years of executive experience in the capital markets and securities industry. He also has experience in leading financial market institutions, including financial market infrastructure institutions and intermediaries and investment banks. Academically, he holds an MBA from Bedfordshire University, and a bachelor degree in accounting from Sultan Qaboos University. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Haytham bin Salim Al Salmi, who will be giving an overview of Muscat Stock Exchange strategy. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I will start with the opening speech on behalf of my chairman, Mr. Mohammed Al-Ardi. Then my presentation will be delayed to the end of the sessions today, the opening sessions, inshallah. Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers and participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to welcome you all to our firstly held investors conference here in Muscat. I would like to warmly welcome representatives from the global investment community, local businesses, investors, and delegates who are joining us virtually today. Thank you all for being with us today, and hope you have a productive, informative sessions during the 2 days. Following the transformation to a commercially based entity, Muscat Stock Exchange has committed itself to becoming a competitive, renowned, a world-class exchange that adapts state-of-art technologies to provide superior services that meet your ambitions and expectations. Our corporate strategy aims at delivering the best value to our stakeholders by effectively directing our capabilities and resources to boost liquidity, enhance efficiency, and increase accessibility to the market. This conference is part of MSX keenness in adopting international best practices in the field of ESG and investors' relations. It intends to create an open communication channels between MSX and the investing community and provide you with a comprehensive overview of the key economic developments and sovereign plans aiming at promoting Oman as a global investment destination. We have invited distinguished high-level keynote speakers and government officials to present you with the promising vision of Oman 2040 that is leading the country toward a new era of development and growth under the visionary leadership of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq. There will be also panel discussions highlighting the economic reforms and the corrective measures that were taken by the government and has successfully improved the country credit rating, fostered the economic activities, and supported the sovereign fiscal position. You will be also introduced to the ambitious scheme of Oman Investment Authority, targeting the privatization of massive companies with attractive growth opportunities, representing various sectors, which will help to enlarge the investment product space available to all investors. In addition, you will be hearing to senior representatives and executives who will deliver informative presentation about top Omani listed companies to enlighten you about their outstanding financial performance and growth perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is a great networking opportunity to all of you, where you could communicate directly to MSX members, and other organizational representatives, and share your views and insights. And we will be delighted to receive your feedback and address your questions and comments. I hope you find those sessions informative, fruitful, and very engaging, and wish us all a very successful conference. Thank you all, and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Haytham Salem Al Salmi. Joining us next is Mr. Badr Al Shanfari, who currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer at Aminvest. He has over 17 years of experience in the field of investment and financial services. And throughout his career, he has held various leadership positions, including the CEO of Uzbek Oman Investment Company, which is the leading private equity firm based in Tashkent. He then took on a role as Executive Vice President of International Strategic Business at Aminvest and Deputy CEO of Eastbridge Partners, based out of Singapore, to lead Aminvest's Southeast Asian initiatives. He holds a bachelor degree in business administration from Duquesne University and an MBA from Strathclyde University. In addition, Mr. Badr Al Shanfari is a certified public accountant from the United States of America, state of Delaware. Please give him a warm welcome to the stage.
Your Excellencies, esteemed dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a good morning. Today's theme revolves around Oman as an attractive investment destination, a topic close to our hearts and a goal crucial for our nation's well-being. I am honored to be a part of this important discussion and pleased to share with you a few thoughts. Let me first focus on Oman's recent economic progress and its future growth trajectory, which are of immense interest to local and foreign investors. Driven by strong oil and gas prices, higher output, and prudent fiscal policies of our government, Oman's economy has strengthened remarkably since the beginning of 2021. Oil and gas production is running at record levels. Average oil production grew by 10% to over 1 million barrels a day during the first half of this year. Consequently, the World Bank has projected Oman's real GDP to grow by more than 5% this year. As the Sultan's economy is on solid path to recovery due to the easing of pandemic pressures, higher hydrocarbon output, and wide-ranging government reforms. In addition, our government has embarked on a sound debt management program, which entails using surpluses to pay down the national debt. With the initiatives I just mentioned, the key economic indicators are looking up. Fitch estimates that the government public debt will decline to $45 billion, bringing the highly watched debt to GDP ratio to around 47% this year, from 61% last year, and from a high of 70% in 2020. The World Bank expects Oman's public debt to GDP ratio to gradually decline towards 38% by 2024. Led by strong exports and restrained imports, Fitch forecasts that Oman's current account balance will post a surplus of 7.3% of GDP this year. It's first since 2014, and this compares to a deficit of around 12% in 2020. Significant improvement is key in key economic indicators, and the government's commitment to fiscal reform led Fitch to upgrade Oman's rating to BB with a stable outlook. Amid strong economic recovery and steadily improving fiscal conditions, it is likely that Oman's credit rating will improve in the years ahead. Here, I would like to emphasize that those who better understand local risks and the ground realities vis-à-vis the standard risks by credit agencies can take advantage of price dislocations and reap outsized investment gains. For example, investors who bought Omani sovereign bonds and other financial assets in 2020 and 2021 have done very well. Oman's foreign exchange reserves are estimated to reach an all-time high of 23 billion in 2022, equivalent to 9 months of import. This lends substantial stability to Omani Riyal against the US dollar, a key consideration for foreign investors. It's noteworthy that IMF has also praised the government's economic reforms, which led to improved fiscal balance, healthy liquidity conditions, and sound external account position. I must say that there's a broad-based recognition of the economic progress being made and the government's highly effective reforms, which are boosting investor confidence. It is particularly important for me to highlight that His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq has remarkably led the government's efforts to reform the economy and attract foreign direct investment by making the business and investment frameworks attractive for foreign investors. In addition, His Majesty's highly successful trips to the neighboring countries are going to further enhance Oman's connectivity with the regional economies and foster trade and investments. As for FDI inflows, they picked up strongly over the last year to reach $47 billion by the end of the first quarter of this year, nearly an increase of 19% compared to last year. To capitalize on Oman's healthy economic outlook and improving investor sentiment, OIA is actively working to privatize a number of state-owned assets from key sectors over the next 5 years. Another encouraging development is that MSX is gearing up to join FTSE Russell Emerging Index, which is expected in the next couple of years. This as well will lead to additional direct passive capital flows from index funds. We believe that these initiatives will significantly enhance the investment attractiveness of our joint stock companies. And when it comes to FDI and attracting institutional foreign investors, as strategic partners, I would like to emphasize the crucial role and support that local partners and regulators have to offer to make it a win-win for all. In this regard, I would like to refer to the merger between Oman Arab Bank and Al-Izz Islamic Bank, which happened in 2020 during the middle of the COVID crisis. The merger entailed significant additional investment by Arab Bank of Jordan, one of the largest banks in the region. To facilitate the merger and being cognizant of Arab Bank's strategic interests, Ominvest decided to dilute its shares from 51% to 32% in the bank and facilitated for Arab Bank to maintain its 49% stake. Ominvest's willingness to offer greater control to Arab Bank resulted in a bigger capital commitment from Arab Bank and ensured further transfer of operational expertise to add value to the business. Crucially, our highly respectable regulators granted approvals, made certain exceptions within the legal framework, and responded to our request for guidance and approval with agility during the difficult COVID-19 circumstances. This is just a recent example of how, through greater engagement, we can encourage and facilitate the inflow of foreign capital and much-needed expertise into our economy. Another compelling case study involves the inflow of foreign capital into our enterprises is the merger between Oman's National Life and Insurance Company with RSA Middle East in June of this year. As part of the merger, National Life took over the business of RSA in the Middle East, while the Canadian shareholders exited RSA. The Saudi shareholders swapped their ownership in RSA for shares in National Life. In simple words, the Saudi shareholders become a strategic investor in National Life, a leading Omani insurance company with a regional footprint. While the Saudi shareholders having this interest in an Omani company is a sentimental booster, it has other far-reaching implications. We will be able to build this strategic relationship, explore other opportunities, and realize mutual synergies. The idea is also to link other Omani companies with regional players through such a network. Finally, I would like to share with you the fact that with our commitment to excellence, Ominvest has grown by more than 2 times since 2014 by investing in Oman. And as you begin to explore investment opportunities here, Ominvest will be delighted to play its role. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, Mr. Badr Al-Shanfari. Joining us next is Ms. Shayma Al-Habsi, who oversees the investor relations and rating agencies function within the Debt Management Office of Oman's Ministry of Finance. In her capacity, Shayma has worked closely with debt capital market investors and rating agencies to promote transparency and give a better understanding of Oman's fiscal and economic trajectory, whilst providing updates on Oman's latest developments. Prior to joining the Debt Management Office, Ms. Shayma Al-Habsi worked at the Oman Investment Authority in the Economic Research Team, providing research to the public and private markets department, largely covering emerging markets. She started her career in the banking sector, where she worked at Bank Muscat for 4 years. in the economics department supporting different functions within the bank. Let us hear from Ms. Shayma Al-Habsi, who is going to discuss the main pillars of Oman Vision 2040.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for my presentation. Actually, mine's the Ministry of Finance presentation. Great. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I think I'll start off by looking at slide 3, where we discuss Oman's key credit highlights. In addition to our by now established record of implementing a multi-pronged reform agenda, Oman has a strong commitment to fiscal sustainability and prudent debt management, a comprehensive plan to diversify the economy, a robust external position, and a stable political environment, all of which are supported by a favorable geographic location. In addition, higher oil prices has supported government's objectives. These pillars of strength have been positively recognized by several credit rating agencies, as outlined on the next slide. As you can see on slide 4, a summary of recent rating actions and commentary by the rating agencies. These statements recognize Oman's reform momentum, expectations for surplus, and an improved macroeconomic backdrop. Fitch recently upgraded Oman's credit rating to BB from BB-, the first upgrade since 2017, reflecting significant improvements in Oman's fiscal metrics, a decrease in external financing pressures, and ongoing efforts to public finance reforms. Prior to this, S&P upgraded Oman's ratings to BB- from B+, citing higher oil prices, rising hydrocarbon productions, and implementation of reform program as factors that are improving Oman's fiscal and external trajectory. These updated rating opinions validate the seriousness of the reform program underway and the results already achieved. Now let's review Oman's growth prospects in the next section. As you can see, an update on growth drivers in Oman, starting with the growth rebound underway. As the recovery signs from COVID-19 pandemic abates and the economy has reopened, Oman's successful mitigation strategy has allowed economic activity to return to near fully normality. The results of these efforts are illustrated by the monthly increases seen in the establishments of SMEs, rising passenger numbers, and rising hotel occupancy rates over the past year, as illustrated in the graphs at the bottom half of the slide. Now moving on to slide 7, Oman's key economic indicators are reflecting a positive recovery from the pandemic, as real GDP grew from -3.2% to 3% in 2021, and we project that it will increase to 4.9%. In terms of nominal GDP, it has increased in 2021 by nearly 17% as compared with the previous year, and we project it to increase to around 19% in 2022. Now let's move to the next slides on public finance and reforms. The main objective of the fiscal consolidation measures is to achieve an overall primary balance by 2025 and steer general government debt on a steady downward path. It is important to point out that the fiscal adjustments from expenditure efficiencies and rationalizations includes wage bill restraint, subsidy reform, and budget control. On revenues, we now have a meaningful contribution from VAT collections and are looking at options for increasing the effectiveness of tax collection. While oil revenues has been the main driver of Oman's fiscal revenues for years, the Sultanate has been increasingly oriented towards diversifying its sources of revenue and boosting non-oil revenues. This will be supported by the government's efforts to diversify the economy, which we believe will lead to an increase in tax and fees collection. On expenditure, We continue to maintain resilient illustrated by a steady level of spending in the budget of 2022. As an example of fiscal discipline, we have continued to contain the wage bill, which is lower in 2022 budget than it was in 2015. In addition, plant electricity and water subsidy reforms will proceed across a 10-year horizon, which we see is the right balance between responding to global inflationary pressures with the ultimate objective of better targeted social spending. Moving on to slide 10, addressing the fiscal performance as of the second quarter of 2022. With respect to this year's fiscal performance up to the end of June, total expenditures increased by around 9% year-on-year. Civil expenditures increased by around 31%, largely on the back of an increase in subsidies and transfers and upstream gas operations. Meanwhile, civil ministries remained somewhat stable year-on-year, owing to expenditure control efforts as per our reform program. On the other hand, total revenues increased by around 54% by the end of June 2022 as compared to the previous year, with increases seen in each of the line items, but largely supported by an increase in oil and gas revenues. This has led to the government achieving a fiscal surplus of around 784 million Omani riyals in 2022 versus a deficit of around 1.1 billion during the same period in 2021. Now moving on to the next section where we discuss our debt management strategy. We have been observing a more prudent strategy to ensure the government's financing needs and payment obligations are met at the lowest possible cost over the medium to long term, as well as better manage our maturity profile. To elaborate, in March this year, we concluded a $4 billion syndicated term loan facility. The primary purpose of the term loan facility was to finance debt maturities scheduled in 2022. The first of which was a $2.2 billion syndicated term loan raised in 2020. Furthermore, we prepaid a 3.55 billion Chinese loan in April 2022, which is in line with the government's efforts to reduce public debt. Additionally, we have issued a local sukuk in June 2022 in order to expand the domestic borrowing and develop Oman's local yield curve. This is in parallel with the government's efforts in developing the domestic capital market, in line with the establishment of a local currency bond market development committee, with members from the Central Bank of Oman, the Capital Market Authority, and the Ministry of Finance. And the most recent successful transaction, the first in the region, was the buyback of a government bonds maturing between 2025 and 2032, and the prepayment of a 1.3 billion pre-export facility. If we now turn to slide 13, you'll find an outline of the government's debt stock as of the end of June, but I'll be talking to you about our latest figures, which is as of the end of July 2022. The total government debt stood at around 18.4 billion Omani riyals, of which 72% is denominated in USD. Within this share of our portfolio, 78% of US debt carries a fixed interest rate, primarily in the form of Eurobonds and external sukuk instruments. Further, let us consider the stability of monetary policy here. The peg to the Omani Riyal to USD, as a result of two factors. Our debt portfolio has a very low foreign currency and interest rate risk exposure. Moving on to the next slide, here we provide some insights on the diversity and scale of government's asset base. The government has continued to maintain significant assets in foreign currency. The table on the bottom left side illustrates Oman's liquid assets over GDP, which is a positive outlier compared to other sovereigns rated single B or double B on the S&P scale. Now I'd like to recap Oman's credit strengths on slide 16. Oman remains flexible and resilient. This has been demonstrated through prudent fiscal discipline throughout the cycle, reflected in our more aggressive approach to reining in expenditures while benefiting from the outperformance of oil and gas revenues. Oman has maintained strong access to capital markets over the past several years, which will support our borrowing program in the future. And while our debt management strategies are aligned to international best practice, the lower fiscal deficits projected over the medium term is expected to decrease our capital market issuance in the coming years. Meanwhile, we remain firmly committed to our fiscal consolidation and reform strategies, and the progress made on the global economic recovery, on Oman's own national vaccination progress, and reopening the country gives us the confidence in both our medium and long-term growth prospects. Our vision for the upcoming years is supported by our enhanced governance and commitment to transparency. We are committed to building upon fiscal reforms achieved, to reducing our debt, and to ensuring a stable and predictable macroeconomic environment. I hope that you have found this update useful and informative, and on behalf of my colleagues, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Shayma Al-Habsi, for your words. Joining us next is, this next speaker has earned her bachelor's degree in civil engineering at Sultan Qaboos University. Aisha Al-Saifi is vice president of Oman National Investment Program, and she joined the Dutch engineering Royal Haskoning to work with the design and construction team of Oman's biggest maritime infrastructure project, Port of Duqm. She has then worked with diverse international teams for international projects in the Netherlands, UK, Mexico, India, Peru, and in addition to the Middle East, with a focus on managing a portfolio of construction projects, developing economic strategies, and leading client due diligence work before finally shifting to business development and organizational leadership. In 2015, she returned to Royal Haskoning as its managing director to lead the company's growth in Oman until 2018. She was awarded the Chevening Scholarship by the UK government that earned her a distinction and Master in Engineering for International Development at UCL University. She came back to Oman in 2020 to work with Asyad's Restructuring and New Operating Model team, where she established its newly founded Market Intelligence Unit. In 2022, she was assigned by Oman Vision 2040 to establish operationalize the leadership office of Oman's National Investment Program and set the program's priorities, quick wins, and short-term scope for 2022 to 2023. To increase Oman's international attractiveness of private investment and global capital and boost the investment ecosystem in the diversification sectors through legal, procedural, and planning sustainable intervention to position Oman as an active destination in the investment global scene. Let us hear from Ms. Aisha Al-Saifi, who will be giving an overview of the main pillars of Oman Vision 2040. Thank you.
Presentation, please. Thank you. Next slide. Oh, here you go. Your Excellencies, dear distinguished audience, good morning. If there is a lesson that we have all learned in 2022, it will be that a country's political stability and neutral positive diplomacy is worth billions. Imagine if on top of that, you're injecting your capital in a country where 2/3 of the global population lives within 8 hours flying and 18 hours sailing from Oman. A population with a young, hungry for growth, where the 60% is below the age of 35, the second safest country for women to work, ranked 1 out of 100 in the terrorism incidents, owning the 8th globally ranked roads in the quality of the infrastructure, and the 1st in the Arab world. This is all combined with a well-crafted vision where 41,000 participants participated in the co-creation of this vision. Over 9,000 labs and millions of hours were spent to ensure that Oman Vision is the nation brand that was built with diversity, neutrality, trust, credibility, and unique authenticity. A vision of the nation with the big, hairy, audacious goal to place Oman among the advanced economies in 2040. But that's not the end in mind. This is a process in the making where Oman Vision 2040 has blended the spatial strategies, the national priorities of the Sultanate, the key sectoral strategies, and the 9th five-year plan in order to ensure that this is the co-creation of the nation. And out of that, the vision was built on 4 key pillars, ensuring that we have a competitive economy, productive and diversified, with equal opportunities driven by the private sectors and private investments, and ensuring that we are re-engineering a creative individuals that are proud of their identities, that are innovative and globally competitive in the global scene, that it's built on responsible state agencies with comprehensive, well-structured governance and effective oversight and justice system, and an environment that is sustainable and well-presented, that is with all the renewable energies. And out of the competitive economy, while the vision is focusing on monitoring Oman's position on the global indices, such as the Global Competitiveness Index, Global Environmental Performance, Innovation Index, and so on, the vision has operationalized its executive arms, where they have operationalized its programs to ensure that they are monitoring those indices on project levels. And so these programs were launched including Tawazun, Tashghil, as you may know, focusing on planning the future of the jobs in the country, and Tanwi', focusing on the diversification sector. But the biggest program that was launched in terms of scope and the number of projects was the National Program for Investment and Export Development, Nazdaher. So Nazdaher was operationalized in November 2021, and it was the why was stemmed on 4 key pillars. The first one is that ensuring that we are co-creating investment directions and introducing sustainable procedural and legislative interventions with the authorities in charge of the diversification sectors in line with the objectives of Oman Vision 2040. We ensure that we are following up the implementation of the investment projects for the targets that are set for the diversification sectors, and ensuring that we are activating all the escalation channels from the investors to the decision makers to ensure that we are resolving any challenges, problems, and accelerating the implementation of those investment projects that are set for the target towards the end of the program in 2025. And more important, that we act as a corporate, having 70% of the team who's coming from private sector, more than 70% of the executive leadership being females. We ensure that we are talking your language, we're talking the language of money, and we understand that time means money, and we ensure that we are bridging between the private sector and the public sector to ensure that we have a harmonious system in place. So we operate through 2 wings. We want to ensure that we have an effective, harmonious business environment through 3 key pillars: investment tools, easing and automating government processes to ensure that we have one seamless journey for the investors, and the third element, that we have a legislative and judiciary system. For the investment sectors, right now we have 8 sectors where they have been set for targets in terms of attracting private investments toward the end of the program, which is 2025. As we speak today, we have 3 verticals under the business environment. We have the legislation and judiciary program, because we understand your language. We understand that the private capital looks for a stable judiciary and legal infrastructure. And we are here ensuring that those laws are fostering the high change in the world, and ensuring that we have an efficient judiciary system to foster future investments. The other thing is automating government processes related to the journey of the investor. And so what we are working now closely with our colleagues in the digital transformation program to ensure that we are automating hundreds of services related to the investor's journey and establishment of their businesses. The third one is the investment tools that has 10 initiatives, and I will highlight a few of the key initiatives that we have today. One of the key initiatives is the National Negotiation Team, which is a centralized decision-making platform representing the government in the negotiation process with all the investment projects that exceed 50 million plus. So they can speak the same language. They speak the language of tax, employment, land allocation, gas allocation, utility prices under one umbrella of a team that is able to negotiate with you and your investments. We have activated a link for you to apply in case you feel interested to go through that process. We have a pipeline of projects that are, as we speak today, worth 3 billion of investments. The other one is Invest in Oman Center, which, as we speak today, the construction workers are breaking the ground for the center to be operational, hopefully, towards the start of next year. This center will be a one-stop shop that will be serving you through all the business permits and processes, ensuring that you have one account manager who's taking care of all the permits, and we have all the concerned entities for permits stationed in one place to ensure that you have the right VIP treatment. One of the outcomes of the program that some of you have already lived is the investor residency. So we have already launched the first wave that has seen over 400 investors applying for investor residency. We are now working on the second wave of the scheme that will see entrepreneurs, will see digital nomads, will see researchers being granted the residency as well. The fast track platform that have solved over 28 issues that were faced by the investors. So we want to ensure, as well as part of the business continuity, that we are addressing any issues that are facing your businesses. So we have established the fast track platform, which consists of 12 undersecretaries to ensure that any issues that face the investors can be resolved in a matter of 2 weeks. And the last one is that we are now working on launching the investment opportunities map, where you will see another wave of investment teasers with the right background information throughout all the sectors and all the governorates in the country. Moving to the investment sectors, we aim to facilitate the attraction of 11 billion Omani riyals worth of investments toward the end of the program in 2025 that are now distributed across the 8 sectors, with manufacturing and tourism leading those target sectors. The investment target towards the 25 has been 4.3 billion have been achieved so far, and we have 6.7 billion to go towards the end of 25. As we speak today, our teams are now sprinting with the other concerned authorities to ensure that we are working in fleshing out investment opportunities in 4 key sectors. We're going to work in October in launching the new wave of the investment opportunities in food security. We are working right now heavily with the Ministry of Health to ensure that we will be fleshing out opportunities as investment opportunities in the health sector, culture, and sports. And if you want to have further information on the Vision 2040, I invite you all to scan the QR code on the left to download the vision document. And if you find anything interesting in this presentation, do not hesitate to scan the contact details of Nazdaher. My team and I will be honored to address any questions that you have. And so I look forward to having 2 productive days for you, where you can ensure that we are here as a government, the vision, and the National Investment Program to safeguard your investment. And do not forget to spare some time for another type of adventure other than the money discussion, to explore the amazing people and nature of Oman for those who are first-timers in Oman, where you can enjoy the most spectacular hiking route just 5 minutes from here in Qantab, driving for 10 minutes to Boucher to enjoy sand bashing, or sail for 10 minutes to enjoy your diving or snorkeling in the most amazing marine life near Dimaniyat, which reflects the diversification identity of the country. So come and explore Oman. Come to the land of opportunities that are yet to be unlocked with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your words, Ms. Aisha Al Saifi. That was a good conclusion. I think it captivated us all. We will now hear from the Economic Diversification Investment Manager at Oman Investment Authority, Ms. Thuraya Ahmed Al Balushi. She oversees local investments and development mandates in financial sectors and aligns the strategies of the current portfolio with the country's diversification objectives and targets for this sector. She also looking to privatize 30 companies by 2025, and Ms. Thuraya Al Balushi will brief you today on the plan behind it. Please give her a round of applause.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to be here today to give you a snapshot about OIA's divestment policy as well as plans going forward. Before that, I will just briefly give you a snapshot about OIA and its establishment, its assets and portfolio for the audience who are not familiar with OIA. So, Oman Investment Authority was established back in June 2020 via the Royal Decree 61/2020, merging all the assets under State General Reserve Fund, Oman Investment Fund, as well as some of the government assets. A year after that, a royal decree has been issued to stipulate the mandate of OIA, stipulating its roles and responsibilities under, as we can see, the 5 objectives of OIA. The first 3 objectives on top comes very natural for OIA, as it's the sovereign wealth fund of the country. So OIA is expected to manage, develop, invest funds to generate maximum returns, as well as contribute to the state budget whenever that is required, in addition to achieve growth for future generations and accumulate financial reserves. After the inclusion of the government investments under the umbrella of OIA, today OIA and its entities calculate of around more than 25% of Oman's GDP. Hence, it's vital for OIA to play an essential role in stimulating the targeted economic sectors, as well as enhance the national investment environment and play a role in contribution to attracting investments to the Sultanate. You can see from the map, this is the geographical distribution of OIA investments via different vehicles or asset classes, whether it was direct or indirect. We have a presence in more than 35 countries across the globe. OIA manages its assets through 2 funds. Both of them are very distinguished with clear mandate and objectives for each of them. The Future Generation Fund holds the legacy assets from SGRF, so international assets, as well as some of the local assets. The main aim of this fund is to invest and manage funds for future generation and generate maximum returns. The National Development Fund, or portfolio, holds more than 160 assets, local assets. Those are some of the assets that were transferred from the government to OIA. The main mandate for this fund is to contribute towards the growth and stimulate the different economic sector, as well as support the state's budget whenever required. This portfolio is our main focus for today, and we have worked diligently with our underlying company and management to come up with priorities and strategic directions for that portfolio that are both cohesive and holistic. So we managed to identify 8 important priorities, as you can see here, and our main focus today will be the divestment, which was identified as a main priority. We hold investments in all different sectors in the Sultanate. As you can see here, we identify 9 sectors. As you heard maybe before, OIA has launched the Rawabit program, which was working to come up with a framework for all the underlying companies, and it focused on different pillars, like maybe you heard before, which is the governance, the strategic, and all. The governance pillar was concluded by the end, towards the end of last year, and the important outcome of this pillar was the issuance of the Code of Governance of OIA entities, which comes in line with the Corporate Code of Governance here and the best practices. We have also issued around 10 policies and guidelines, out of which one of them is the divestment policy, and there are still 5 policies which are work in progress. Now, the divestment policy came to formulate the process of divestment, detailing guidelines and instructions regulating the implementation of exits. Of course, this divestment strategy of OIA comes in alignment with the general direction of the state towards achieving the national goals of Oman Vision 2040. OIA's divestment plans are considered as one of the important levers for achieving those national goals. We are aiming through the divestment policy to empower the private sector and enable it to expand its contribution in the national economy, as well as we are targeting to deepen the capital market and expand the Muscat Stock Exchange by offering primary and secondary public offerings. One of the things that was mentioned in the divestment policy, that divesting or exiting through an IPO in Muscat Stock Exchange is a priority unless it's proven or justified otherwise. We also aim to redirect the proceeds towards capital investments in sector, contributing to the economic diversification. This is a very brief snapshot of this is as per the last business plans from our companies. We are expecting more than 20 divestment during the period from now until 2025, which will generate also more than 2 billion Omani riyals. The majority will be coming from the energy sector, given that the maturity of this sector. We also have divestments in the logistic, tourism, aviation, and different sector. It's prudent to mention that this plan does not capture some of the assets that are currently undergoing restructuring in the sector itself or revisiting their divestment and exit plans. Companies are in the phase of producing and presenting their updated business plans, and we are expecting that those numbers to be updated and change during the near future, inshallah, before the end of the year. In tomorrow's session, we'll be hearing from around 3 or 4 of our companies that are to be divested in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your informative words, Mr. Rayal Belushi. Joining us next is Mr. Ahmed Ali Al-Mekhani. He is an advisor at the Capital Market Authority. His current role entails providing advice on strategy, macroeconomic policy issues, and governance. As a member of the Economic and Development Committee and advisor on socioeconomic indicators, he participated in the synthesis of the Oman 2040 vision. He holds a Master in Economic Development of the Middle East from Durham University, UK. He is also an alumnus of the University of Glamorgan, now the University of South Wales, as well as the US-based Georgetown University Leadership Seminar and the Southern Methodist University Rule of Law Program, USA. Prior to his current position, he worked as the executive director of a prestigious Omani law firm and served as the Omani Majlis al-Shura, elected chamber of the Bicameral Council of Oman between 1999 and 2008 in several capacities, the last of which was Assistant Secretary General for Information. He also served as the political advisor to 2 American ambassadors in Oman, and today Mr. Ahmed Al-Mekhani is here to brief us on the capital market in Oman. Please welcome him to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. It's always a pleasure to be part of MSX in one way or the other. And one aspect of being one of the last or kind of last speakers, the good side of it that everyone before you prepared the grounds so you don't have to repeat yourself over and over again. But the bad side of it, they set the bar so high, you really have to think what to say to impress people as they have impressed you. So what I'm planning to speak to you today is basically how we are in the CMA, the Capital Market Authority, keep developing and promoting informed, efficient, and effective markets and participation through, let me just see that one. I'm just trying to see. Okay, thank you. Through putting ourselves in your shoes, and when we developed our business plans, and when we aligned our business plans and strategies with Oman 2040. So to keep the story quite short, I'm going to divide my short presentation in 2 areas. What is currently available now, how we can serve you now, and what is coming in the pipeline. So what is currently available is basically, we have greenfield IPOs. We have received so many inquiries, people thinking that we do not permit greenfield IPOs. Quite the contrary, we do that and we encourage you to do that. It's one of the best ways to raise funds in the capital market. We also have a very resilient regime for anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism, and we have also a very good response from all regulated entities. So your money is quite safe with us in Oman. One of the major developments we have, actually, that many people are not aware of, that our bonds on Sukuk can be issued in Oman, but denominated in foreign currencies. So you can issue them in Oman, denominated either in Euro, USD, or any other currency in coordination with the CMA. But also we have had now an account with Euroclear, which has been activated. It's housed within the MCD, the Muscat Clearing and Depository Company. It's really allowing international investors to tap into the sovereign sukuk and funds that meet the standards of Euroclear, but also allowing Omani investors to tap into other bonds on sukuk. And the newest addition to our offerings is the new securities law in Oman that was issued in June of this year. This is the newest in the region. It's based on IOSCO. It's also principle-based, so we think it's going to stay with us for another 10, 15 years. It allows us a lot of scope for development. It provides for a lot of new products that will be of interest for you, inshallah. We can work together on these products together. But also, it allows for or provides for a lot of investors' protection. And we really had a lot of consultation on this to protect and give investors the courage and the confidence in the Omani market. It also provides for an SRO status, a self-regulatory organization status, which is going to be with MSX. So MSX is going to be provided with a set of regulatory functions that will be taken away from the CMA, so they can actually manage their participants much better. One of the additional, recent additions, I beg your pardon, was crowdfunding, which we introduced as part of our commitment to the Oman 2040, enhancing access to finance. The regulation, as you know, has already been issued. We have 2 platforms in action and 2 in the pipeline. The response has been quite promising and encouraging, and we are working quite closely with the concerned parties to actually encourage further the uptake. One of the differences that sets our crowdfunding platforms in Oman and the regulation in Oman from others in the region, that it allows, or it's actually based on cross-border investment. Fintech is another example that we have been committed to, and we have developed. You can argue that crowdfunding is part of fintech or the other way around, it's up to you. But we have been working very closely with our partners, particularly in the Central Bank of Oman. We have developed a national fintech team. We have also adopted in the CMA a sandbox approach, and we have also now signed a cooperative arrangement with the CBO so we can serve you better in that regard. And finally, in this offering, we have now a disclosure platform that is electronically based. It's XBRL based. We adopted it last year, and again, the uptake has been quite good. All regulated entities are on it. It actually now covers all disclosures, so it's all XBR based and accessible. We have also managed to have partnership with the OIA, where they have some of their SOEs, state-owned enterprises information on it. And we have worked very closely with all the regulated entities for the awareness and to use it quite well. So what is in the pipeline now? In the pipeline, that we would like to now transform XBRL-based platform from being a mere kind of disclosure portal to being an analytics portal. So investors, whether you are a retail investor or an institutional investor, you can have analysis. These analyses are kept up to date, and they sometimes can be a real-time situation. We are going to use it for filing other regulatory requirements. So we have a one-stop shop for this kind of information. And we are hoping to actually have more and more companies outside the regulated entities. So we actually also have more information available for investors. Now, with the new securities law, we would like to actually seek your cooperation. Our commitment to public consultation still remains. We have a target of 100% public consultation for all the regulation that we issue, and we are actually going to use this opportunity to review all the existing regulation from a business perspective and from an Oman 2040 perspective. And perhaps just before the end of my presentation, to a sigh of relief I hear, we are also committed to having innovative and alternative finance instruments that will actually help you and help other partners in Oman to really inject into the economy and have a win-win situation. We have a new regulation for bonds and sukuk, which will cover conventional bonds and sukuk, but particularly it addresses the green sukuk or green bonds, blue sukuk, blue bonds, the purple one, and those who don't know about the purple ones, it's for creative kind of industries. Also sustainability bonds, social bonds, all of these are catered for within the new bonds and sukuk regulation. We started actually earlier this year an initiative, a green finance initiative. It is going to, inshallah, to be concluded towards the end of the year or beginning of next year. And we would like you to actually be attentive, keep your ears to the ground and be part of it. We will also have done some groundwork for carbon exchange, and we have received very good response or interest from the market. So again, we would like you to actually be with us. And ESG disclosure is going to be voluntary for at least about 2 or 3 years. And we have kind of decided not to duplicate efforts. So we are working with the Muscat Security Exchange to develop the ESG for equity, and we are actually working or waiting for the Ministry of Finance ESG requirement for the sovereign debt instrument to be applied to the commercial instrument. We have already finished our public consultation for the private equity and venture capital regulation. We estimate that by the end of the year, before the end of the year, it's going to be issued. And the ETF regulations, we also think, is going to be put for consultation, public consultation, towards the fourth quarter of this year. And finally, we have finished the public consultation and the refining of the regulations for independent financial advisor or planner. And we are now actually working on the software that will make it easier for everybody to take part in this. And, sorry, I told a lie. It wasn't finally, it was before, finally, penultimate. Okay. Virtual asset. My colleagues in the CMA are working now on developing the regulatory framework in consultation with a consultant to actually harness the opportunities presented by virtual assets to Oman. And I would like to emphasize that we will not stay shy from the opportunities presented here in order to offer you and our own people a lot of benefits to diversify the economy. Thank you very much for your interest, and I hope you will actually come to the CMA. We stand ready for your service. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Al-Makhaini. Joining us next, it's my honor to welcome back to the stage Mr. Haytham bin Salem Al-Salmi, CEO of Muscat Stock Exchange and Chairman of Muscat Clearing and Depository SAOC, who is going to be discussing the Muscat Stock Exchange strategy. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. It's a good morning again. Hopefully you have enjoyed the 4 sessions. And thank you, Ahmed, for breaking the ladies' sessions and being just between of us. It was a very informative. So we are in MSX, as Mr. Ahmed mentioned, ESG is one of the issues, plus diversity and inclusion. So we don't really focus on genders. It's all open, and the ladies has proven they did very well. So thank you very much. As Ahmed said, you set a very high scale for me. I'm here today to discuss or show you what we have done since MSX become a commercial entity. We have completed 1 year now, 1 and 3 months, and since April 2021. We worked on creating a strategy that will work for 5 years, that will bring the commercial ground on our investment platform. We want to create the infrastructure that accept all type of securities, all type of instruments, and then allow the demand to happen eventually. Control? والجرين ترى. The issue that I can't stand still, so this is why I prefer to be in the middle of the stage instead of having a stand mic. So maybe that will bring the attraction to the presentation. The first thing we did after bringing our commercial identity is to rephrase our mission and vision statements and put a clear slogan where we want to place Oman as an opportunity place for all investments. And we have made our strategy based on 6 main pillars. The first one is to be part of the national developments of Oman. So the national agenda is part of our national economy developments, where we want to participate higher in the national in the GDP of the country, and that's where we have set the whole requirement to bring financing tools to Oman, to the project. So what we want to do is to play the real let's say, activity of having a stock market, and instead of just focusing with the secondary market, we want also to be a financing tool for all projects. So we bring together the investors and the projects through the capital market. So going that way, we want also to recognize what we have missed in terms of SME market. So we want to create the SME platforms. We have seen our neighbors who has created that platforms and how we learn from them. So that's one of the main issues that we are working in, along with our regulators and SME regulators as well. We want to create a full platform based on what we have done already. CMA has approved the crowdfunding, so the whole infrastructure already. With a great automation, we can succeed and have a great SME. Honestly, we have a privilege of having or being the first or the only country that register the closed joint stock companies. So we have a great database. We want to build on that database and create this market from a well and a clear database that shows where SME stands currently. One of the issues as well is opening the market. So we want to create an attractive market and create an open doors and access to the market. So foreign investments, we want to participate in Oman by allowing foreigners to enter Oman the easiest possible. And you will see in the next slide what we have done till now on this issue. Then the next pillar is the infrastructure. Muscat Stock Exchange is a financial market infrastructure as per the international standards, along with Muscat Clearing and Depository. So we are the infrastructure of the market. We are here just to bring, to match together the supply and demand. We don't create it. So we want to create a full infrastructure that allow the both sides to meet in the easiest way. So we need to focus on our systems. We need to focus on our regulations. We need to focus on disclosures and all what is required to make investors decide what to buy and where to buy. So there are a lot of issues. We have already issued some indices as well to bring the attention of investors to certain type of investment that will bring them and allow them to highlight what is required and where they want to invest. The third pillar is market attractiveness and access. So we have created a whole strategy maps after this slide that will show you where we want to reach by having this strategy. We are focusing on reclassification of the market. Reclassification of a market is where we enter the global indices. Global indices like FTSE, MSCI, and others, they require us to have minimum liquidity, minimum market cap, and a lot of technical requirements that push us forward one grade. We are now at the frontier market. We want to push in the emerging markets. Currently, on the GCC, we are in Bahrain, still in the frontier market. We want to follow our colleagues and be part of the investment communities of who are looking into investing in emerging markets. So to do that, I'm delighted to mention that all the technical requirement has been completed. It's 100%. So out of the 22 requirements, we need to satisfy 9, and we have already satisfied 12 requirements of FTSE at this stage. What we need is now to focus on liquidity and market cap. The fourth pillar is sustainable exchanges, is how we run commercially. Now we don't receive subsidies. Earlier, we were part of the regulator. So whenever we have any deficits, it has been covered by the government. Now we are an isolated, a full standalone company where we have our capital and we need to sustain. And we believe that sustaining is how we bring the commercial ground on our business. So our commercial ground mainly is how we activate the trading and create that liquidity and sentiment in the market. So we need to make sure that we have all the required to allow investors trade and create that income where we can sustain and bring more to the market. Futures exchange is where digital plays around. It's us plus MCD, Muscat Clearing and Depository. That's where we serve the community. That's where we serve the investors, and where we bring the best state-of-art technologies that will allow all the investors to together, plus how we automate things so we make faster disclosures, reliable data. And that's where we have, and maybe you have seen our investment in blockchain and in MCD, where we have brought blockchain. It's an expensive technology, honestly, but our aim was to bring reliable technology that all the votes of investors held secured and unchanged. So that's the whole purpose, and that's what we aim to, where we can bring straight-through processes, more automation in the process, and make sure that all the information are well distributed to all investors. MSX Exchange is my guys, my colleagues, who are there in MSX serving this, doing all this work. So I need to invest on those colleagues and make sure they're up to the standards. They get the new things. They are more creative. I'm delighted to see all this conference done by them. So thank you very much, my colleagues. I really appreciate what you have done, as it shows the qualities that we will work together in the upcoming 5 years. Okay. So the strategy maps puts FTSE and MSCI in the middle. I believe that liquidity is the most critical issue in our market, and to enhance this liquidity with the support of our stakeholders, our shareholder, the main shareholders, OIA, our regulators, we will bring more instruments in the markets, initiate more activity in the market through news, through disclosures, through better performing companies. We have a very good market, a lot of attractive investment tools. We have a discount on market price over book value that create a very attractive opportunities to invest on the local companies. And to do that, we need to make sure that those companies goes back to the par and the market value goes up, where at least it matches the book value or even higher. And then we can have that liquidity will serve the requirement or the criteria for being in the global indices. So we have focused on FTSE at this stage, being FTSE a more lighter version or global indices compared to MSCI. And we have already satisfied all the required technical criteria. We are focusing on the 13 companies that are already in the frontier index. So we want to bring those companies to the liquidity level that will help us to reach to the required liquidity that will enable us to enter the FTSE. So the plan here is to be in the watch list by 2023. We have to stay there for 1 year in the watch list, then we will be upgraded to the next. So just being in the watch list is like as we are there. We have our partners, our brokers. Those are our main concern who will help us achieving this. So we have frequent meetings, quarterly with the brokers. I used to be a broker, so I'm very connected to them. So I know all what is required. So that's what we have to do on the upcoming. So there are a lot of issues to achieve this. One of them is market maker and how market makers can help us create a higher liquidity in the market. Since we started in April 2021, we have accomplished several projects, and what we have focused mainly is to clean the house and make sure that all the processes and procedures, systems we have currently is up to the required stage where that will boost the liquidity. So we have covered the internal changes required, and now we are focusing on disclosures and the required external stakeholders that will help us achieve our strategies. So we have a new trading platform, Optic, which has started in 2021, is the latest from Euronext. We have our new surveillance system, KX, that brings us a very high level of trading surveillance. We have Trade at Last pricing mechanism that has been adopted by a lot of markets, international markets. So, and that type of calculation of closing price allows auctioning on the last 10 minutes and then the price will move based on the last 10 minutes. We have enhanced our e-listing platforms that enable the closed joint stock companies to be listed. As I have mentioned, we are focusing on big data. We want those data to be available with us, so we can utilize this data, whether to upgrade those companies to be listed in the main market or create that SME market, which I have mentioned earlier. Market maker and liquidity providers, OIA playing a very important role in market and liquidity providing currently. They are supporting us on the daily trades. What we want to create is a market makers that are specific for each instrument. So we have created a draft regulation, and now we are in the final stage of approving that, along with the all required waivers of commissions. So we enable market makers to play their role in the market. Cross listings, we have our colleagues from Saudi here. We have already initiated our connection with regional markets. And what we want to do is to create that platform that will allow issuers to decide whether they want to have a fully listed here in Oman or utilize and increase the liquidity by cross-listing. So we want to create the infrastructure for you to decide which is the best for your own shareholders. Promoting MSX locally and internationally, this event is one of the examples. I have been traveling all around just to meet asset managers, global asset managers, connect with all the global custodians and make sure that MSX is visible to all the information required for them to invest in Oman is clear and available. So we want to put Oman in the spot, whether for the existing companies, listed companies, or new projects that will come. New indices has come to the market, so we have introduced 3 sectorial total return indices that will bring the attention of investors who are looking into those sectors to invest in those sectors. Plus, we do have the Islamic indices, and we have created that Islamic indices with the way of purifying the gains from those. So that's in the process with the Ministry of Awqaf, and we make sure that all disclosure required for investors who are looking into Islamic products will be available for them. One of the main topics, ESG becoming a very critical issue for investors who are looking into non-carbon products, and they want to see the initiatives of the companies. So we have agreed with the GCC CEOs committee that we will have a uniformed ESG disclosure guidelines that will be published soon, and that will bring all the companies to publish their ESG initiatives in public, and that will bring the attention of the global investment community toward what has been done on the ESG practices. We have already joined the United Nations initiatives, ESG initiative, the SSE, which is Sustainability in Stocks Exchanges. So we are part of that, and the initiatives to continue the project and being part of the standards and reporting standards on the way. One of the issues we did as well is how we work together in the group. We have MCD is our subsidiary. We own 70% of MCD. So how we can create that synergy and make sure that we don't have redundancy in our operations, how we can streamline the processes, as well using the capabilities. We follow MCD because they are the access to the market. So one of the main projects has been completed is opening the linkage with Euroclear. So clients internationally can invest in Oman through their Euroclear account. They can settle through Euroclear account. And vice versa, as well, our locals can operate in Oman and in international markets through Euroclear. Risk management is one of the main issues we are focusing. We have created the risk management department that controls the whole group. We just want to make sure that we are resilient enough to make sure that we are 100% operating with no downtime at all. Our systems, our business continuity, plus the more complicated risk factors that comes with the settlements. So we are targeting having a CCP, a central counterparty organization that will handle all the clearing mechanisms in the market and make sure that we bring down the clearing risk as much as low. That's done for me. That's what we are aiming to do now in MSX. We want to bring all the stakeholders together. So we have you all here. We are ready to hear from you. Any feedbacks, any process. What you have seen here, that we want to bring the commercial ground in our business. That's our aim. So we have loosened the government protocols as much as possible. So I apologize for that. But what we want to do is to play a commercial ground in all our business upcoming. And the final stage of this 5-year plan is to be listed in the exchange itself. So MSX will be a listed company in 5 years. Thank you very much, and thank you for
Thank you so much, Mr. Haytham Al Salmi. We will now have a short coffee break. You may network, you may grab yourself some coffee. I think there's a few refreshments right outside the hall, and we will be proceeding with the conference at 10:45. Thank you.